video and all other videos on this channel are for entertainment purposes only. The content of this video and all other videos on this channel are the opinions of the creator only and do not constitute legal, trading, investment, or financial advice of any kind. Investing carries a high level of risk and the majority of retail clients lose money. Do not invest any capital unless you understand the risks and you are prepared to lose it all. Alright, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel and welcome to the week. Welcome to Monday. Today, to set us up for the week, I want to run through the bear raid that is going on, allegedly, in MicroStrategy at the moment. I also want to talk about how I think it would be important for a lot of people to zoom out and continue to give Bitcoin the benefit of the doubt. I see a lot of people drawing false conclusions in both directions, by the way. So a lot of people are saying it's certainly going down and a lot of people are saying it's certainly going up. And I just want to kind of show you what I'm looking at that makes me think we should just kind of take a step back and let the market breathe, right? Let the market do what it's going to do. I also want to briefly touch on gold because having been extremely bullish on gold for a long time, and I maintain that I am still the biggest long-term gold bull in the universe, I am also, remember, a trader, okay? My job is to time weekly cycle lows and also at some point dump into what I believe is major cyclical tops. And having been extremely short-term bullish and accumulating things in the members section, I'm now at that point where we've been holding these positions for long enough for me to start to say, okay, we're in significant profit. I want to start to actually target some sell zones for some of these gold and gold miner positions. And of course, I'm going to want to buy it back, right? We're going to want to buy it back lower into the 4-year cycles next year. And I'm still calling for ridiculous 5-figure numbers in gold into the end of the decade, maybe around 2030 to 2033. So none of that has really changed, but in the meantime, I believe there's a significant opportunity to lighten up or sell these positions and then buy them back lower down. So I'm going to start to flip my focus from let's buy all these miners and hold them to now it's time to start to offload them, okay? And then again, we'll put the focus back on finding a major 4-year cycle low to re-enter. And I also got a couple of Altseason slides to show you because these are kind of interesting to me at the moment. So we'll talk about all of that. We'll, of course, head into some charts and see what we can see there. So in the meantime, hit the like and subscribe button and let's dig in. I could see a lot of this going around over the weekend, that there is allegedly a coordinated social media campaign to smear the reputation of MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor. There doesn't seem to be any proof of this. It just seems to be a trust me, bro. The market has seemed to move from greedy euphoria in MicroStrategy to all of a sudden people are angry and trying to look for someone to blame. They're looking around and saying, oh, this is an attack, it's a bear raid, it's a this, it's a that. But the reality is, markets are cleansing, okay? And MicroStrategy has been going through a cleansing process since November. The holders of this stock are really cult-like, and that is never a good sign. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what anyone's opinion is because price is king, right? Price does not lie. And if the price doesn't care, then we shouldn't either. You can also see this huge thing about MNAV going on lately where everyone is talking about MNAV and, oh, it can't go to this level or it has to do this or it needs to do that. When this is a market, markets do not have to do anything. They do not need to do anything. And the MNAV can make 0 cents for extended periods of time, okay? Just because something seems cheap relative to MNAV or whatever, okay, does not mean that we can't trade significantly below what would be considered reasonable value. Remember, the only real value is what the market in aggregate wants to pay for it on that day, right? That is how a market works. Once we actually got the top come in, and once I'd actually unloaded my position, then I started to propose this fractal idea, okay? This was all the way back in November of last year. Fast forward to today, and this thing has pretty much played out. And now here is why I want to bring this up, because we have given this thing ample time to print new highs, okay? And again, the sentiment is the tell. The sentiment is super important. If the market in aggregate thinks that you're dumb for cashing in after a 35x move to the upside, then again, you can always make note of the sentiment. And now look how we have cleansed sentiment, okay? We went from back here, greedy euphoria and complacency, to here, people are trying to point the finger and find someone to blame, right? They're trying to blame bots or social media smear campaigns or whatever. The reality is, this thing made all of the gains and also priced in all of the gains to come for Bitcoin, okay? Keep in mind, Bitcoin off the lows did 600 or 700%. This did nearly 40x. Okay, like, why do we have to go up another 100%? Is 40x not enough? Do we need to see 80x, right? I don't think that's what's going on here. I think it's not a smear campaign. I think people have just finally worked out what comes next, okay, is the major breakdown. And look where it's occurring as well, in the timing for the 4-year cycle low to start to take focus. And now all those loudmouths are silently shaking in their boots, right? Because they know, even if not consciously, on a subconscious level, they know that this is not what a chart that makes new highs tends to look like. If it was going to make new highs, it would have did what Bitcoin did, right? Which is pull back into a weekly cycle low and move to new highs. But instead, it's made another lower high, okay, both below here, and now it's losing power, isn't it? It really is losing power. So is it fair to blame this on bots and social media smearing? I don't think so. okay, if we go to the Wall Street cheat sheet, we have clearly been all the way through the euphoria phase, okay, and complacency, and now we've got to the point of anxiety and denial. Right, this is where we are with MicroStrategy. People are now anxious. They're starting to point the finger. They're starting to blame one another. Okay, so does it really matter? No. What matters is, can you have a level where you say, okay, if we break down from here, I'm out of the trade. If we fail cycles, if we fail weekly cycles, we each get to pick our own levels. Okay, the only thing that's really bad here is if you bought somewhere in this neighborhood and then once it starts to continue to move lower, you say, oh no, I'm not going to sell. I'm just going to bag hold, because remember the hyperwave target, and I don't know if this is going to be hit, but the hyperwave target is $35 a share, which means this thing's going to lose like 95% of its value. Okay, all I'm saying is have an area on the chart to manage your risk around and understand how much time has elapsed, because if this thing does not bounce from here in the next week or two, then it's not going to. Okay, we've just used up too much time in the 4-year cycle. We've already forward priced everything and all of the gains to come. Okay, 35, 40x off the lows. We've already priced in 300k Bitcoin, which means even if Bitcoin continues to rip to 2 or 300k, I make the argument we've already priced that in. Okay, that's already been baked into the cake, and now we're in this cleansing process. And again, note the sentiment. People are saying things like, if Bitcoin goes to 250 or 300k, MicroStrategy has to make a new high. Okay, but keep in mind, it's a market. It doesn't have to do anything. And that is something that only experience can tell you. And a lot of the investors that are irresponsibly long MicroStrategy have really only just come into this market in the last 6 to 12 months, right? I'll say one more thing, just speaking from experience here. I bet you the people that organized irresponsibly long MicroStrategy worked for hedge funds or institutions. I would guarantee that. And I bet they've already made off like bandits. Okay, I bet they're no longer in those groups and they've just left a bunch of these people that are inside of this cult scratching their heads, wondering how Bitcoin can move from this weekly cycle low to fresh new all-time highs, and MicroStrategy is doing this. Okay, I only say this because I've seen it dozens of times before. It happens particularly often with penny stocks, which is where I first initially started to learn to trade. They create these forums, they herd retail in there, they tell them that this penny stock is eventually going to be a big S&P 500 type stock or make it into the NASDAQ, and the thing pumps and it dumps and it goes through the exact same structure. And all through here, the people that usually work for the institutions or the hedge funds have left the forum long ago, made off like bandits with a bag, and left a dumb retail trader like I once was holding this penny stock, wondering why it will not continue to print new highs as promised. Okay, and I believe that's exactly what we're seeing here. So I didn't mean for this to turn into what is probably a 10-minute rant on MicroStrategy in this morning, but I do think this is super important. Okay, it's super important for not just protecting yourself from a huge potential collapse in share price, but it's also super important because it speaks to where we are in the 4-year cycle. So far, everyone said this time was going to be completely different to the prior cycle, but so far it's exactly the same. Right, it is literally exactly the same as the prior cycle. So just keep that in mind, because people are also starting to move the goalpost and talk about Q1 top for Bitcoin and all of this kind of thing. That wasn't a thing a few months ago, was it? That's completely just born right out of the end of this 40-year cycle. All the people that have been the entire time saying nothing would be different and this is the sell zone for Bitcoin and MicroStrategy and everything else. We've finally gotten here, and now all of a sudden they're talking about no more bear markets, no more 4-year cycles, right? This is end of cycle stuff here. And I just want people to be really switched on, because it's not just MicroStrategy, it's the implications this chart pattern has for the wider market as well. Okay, and remember, if all of this thing is going to top and Bitcoin's going to top, altcoins may or may not have a pump. We'll get to some altcoin charts in a minute, but historically they don't pump for very long, right? They pump and they dump, and that's the end of the cycle. So just keep that in mind. Okay, this thing could very quickly be over, and in hindsight we'd only be able to look back here and say, well, yeah, like everyone thought that was where it was going to top the whole time, right? So just keep that in mind. Okay, the next message, and hopefully this will be a bit more positive, is don't be a tape slave, because I can see so many tape slaves out there talking about Bitcoin dumping and Bitcoin crashing. But again, put it on a line chart, zoom out for the cycle. Okay, is this dumping? Is this crashing? I don't think so, to be completely honest. I think we haven't even completed the 3 before 4 and 5 yet. I think that 4 will come with a weekly cycle. And I think we'll find a daily cycle low any day now, which I'll show you in a minute. But not only zooming out on the line chart like I just did, okay, I've got a whole heap of tabs now which we're going to rip through, and you're going to see just how bullish the structure still is, okay? There is no real bear case here, if I'm being completely honest, okay? First of all, global lick, you know I'm not a big subscriber to this idea, but so far it's not broken, okay? So we're not going to try and fix it. It's still tracing this. Now, I don't know if I want to put as much weight on global lick as everyone else does, but undeniably, okay, this thing is still suggesting that we're going to creep up for a little while longer, and there's space in the daily and weekly cycles to do that. We have also, as Joel points out here, filled the CME gap. Okay, so good chance now that we've traded down to about 115k, we can turn around and start to push higher. And again, as you'll see in a minute, there is also daily cycle low confluence in this window in the next few days. So we've got a full daily cycle behind us. Okay, relax is probably the right thing to do. Take a week off and we'll see what happens in a week's time. And Big Mike's also got a count that shows us we've kind of already done this, right? We're now on our way down into that 21st time frame, right inside of that cycle low window. And then again, note the levels, 115-ish K. We're pretty much here. Okay, we can start to move to the upside out of this daily cycle low. And again, zooming out, history doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes. What have we got at the moment? Okay, big breakout, huge parabolic run into the peak. Same deal here. And at the hard right edge, we have just completed breakout, retest, and now resuming off. Okay, do not discount the idea that we can run up over the next few weeks. Remember, this whole thing here in the extended fifth, if my count is correct, is that this is 1, 2, 3 is in process now, 4 weekly cycle low, 5, okay? We absolutely can do that. That is not out of the question just yet. And I still think we ought to be giving this thing the benefit of the doubt because, again, when you zoom out, these are all higher highs and higher lows. The entire thing, this is a very established uptrend. And why would we bet against the trend, right? The trend is your friend until it ends. And this thing certainly has not ended yet. It doesn't officially make a new lower low until we lose this weekly cycle at about 74k. So yes, it's volatile, but at the moment it's still going up. Paul here also got a bunch of Elliott wave counts. You can see this right here. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into the fifth, and it could be anywhere between 2 and 300k. And a lot of people are saying that's impossible. Okay, but it's not. Believe me, it's not. And you can see here as well. Okay, we're still in this channel. We're not even close to the topping zone. Just the top of this channel gives us about 230k for Bitcoin. Note how there's space on the RSI to do that as well. And if we just continue this overall trajectory, we are going to make it above 200k by about November. Okay, so we're possibly just a few months away here from getting that kind of Q4 top that everyone was targeting the whole time. And if we just continue this overall rate of increase, we will be there. Okay, we will actually make these nice numbers. Meanwhile, whales continue to buy Bitcoin like never seen before. Okay, look at this at the hard right edge. So smart money, or big money at least, continues to buy Bitcoin here, probably because they know there's at least a 100% move from these current levels coming. And again, a lot of people are saying, well, we're running out of time, right? We're running out of time. No way we can reach these 200k numbers plus. But this move right here, 98% in 140 bars. We did the same thing here, 100% move in 119 trading days. Here we did 86% in just 49 trading days. Okay, you can see here, 133 days to do 118%. This was 49% in 42 days. So if we can just consolidate a bit more, we can easily see 75% in 70 days, especially as we expect this rally to get steeper and steeper because that's what a parabolic advance does. And if so, 75% in the next 70 days is extremely possible, which means we could quite comfortably get to 200-ish K by somewhere between September, October, November. Okay, which again is what everyone has been targeting the whole time. It's just like all of a sudden we've gotten here, people just want to move the goalposts, right? Talk about super cycle, talk about extended cycles, lengthening cycles, no more cycles, whatever the narrative is. But as you can see, right, if we do just push from here into the end of the year to 200k, it's not the end of the world, right? It's not going to look like an outlier on this data set. It will just look like any one of these prior pushes that we saw for Bitcoin. Nice chart here as well from Bitcoin Data 21. What if the tariff crash, or orange swan, is a repeat of the COVID crash / black swan for Bitcoin? And you can see right here, so far, overlaid, this thing is tracking impressively closely, frankly, okay? All of these peaks and troughs match so far, and if so, the Bitcoin price is about to find a daily cycle low and then meander its way up here, okay? And again, we'll be north of 150k conservatively by about October. So can we complain with this? I don't think so. And again, to reaffirm this idea, the drop in price to 115k Bitcoin does not affect the long-term view in any way, shape or form. The Bitcoin price on the 18th of August was 115k, when the power law is estimating it at 104k. So we're actually ahead of schedule for the power law. And if we take a look at this, there's still plenty of potential upside here to come. It's not looking like we've got power law divergence in any way, shape or form that would be synonymous with major tops or bottoms. So again, just be open to seeing some higher Bitcoin prices walking forward. Meanwhile, Bitcoin accumulation demand has just reached its highest level ever. Again, similar to that big whale accumulation that we saw earlier. And I don't really think we need to be second guessing a trend or a cycle that has never given us a reason to second guess it as of yet. Of course, if we start to roll over, if we start to fail daily cycles, if we find a daily cycle around the 21st as expected, okay, look at this, into the daily cycle low window. If we can find one in here, make a swing and push up, okay, then happy days. Now, of course, if we do some kind of daily cycle low, roll over, left translate and fail, okay, then we can start to talk, right? Then we can start to say, okay, so maybe this thing is bearish, but why would we second guess this trend right now when sentiment's getting flushed and reset into a cycle low, which is exactly what these cycle lows are expected to do? And whilst the camel indicator has found a potentially tradable low here, I suspect it's probably going to find another one in this window as well. And of course, that would just be normal and to be expected for the 60-day count for Bitcoin. As I said at the start, I also wanted to put a little bit of focus on gold and altcoins today because the S&P is up just 10% for the year, but the Junior Miners ETF is up 72%. And of course, the Camel Crew in the member section bought the lows in December, but note, we are looking to sell them in a couple of daily cycles before hunting that 8-year cycle low. Okay, so we're expecting every man and his dog to finally start to turn bullish gold as we are selling, okay, just like the MicroStrategy sentiment rant at the start of this episode. And again, most people were extremely underexposed to this move, and many people were still calling gold a boomer metal. Even now, they're trying to prematurely call top still. They've been doing that the whole way up, but we have literally made it to here and consolidated, okay, just below where this yellow fractal suggested. And I'm still making the case that we are getting ready for that final push higher, and it is into the top of this current weekly cycle that I am looking to offload all of those minor positions. We bought 13 assets, I believe, in the level 3 members section. And for me, that's going to be the final push to start to offload. And then we can target reallocation at a 4-year cycle low after we've had the whole deflationary crash into 2026. And we found those 4-year cycle lows. And of course, out of those 4-year cycle lows, once we've seen record stimulus and QE, I expect gold to move to those 5-figure numbers. And of course, the miners should start to do the 10 to 50x that we're all waiting for. So massive opportunity there, especially if you're a level 3 member. Moving into the altcoins, okay, I've got a couple of slides to show you before we hunt down some cycle lows and some charts. Look, XRP, this is kind of ridiculous, okay, but it's not at the same time. And whenever I see something that makes me say that, I always sit up in my seat, okay, because notice here, okay, if this really is a true breakout, a consolidation, and we're about to move higher, okay, then of course the local peak from back here becomes a normal and to be expected technical target. Now, this just so happens to be 30% dominance by market cap, okay? That's a lot. It would represent roughly a 10x move from where we are. But here's the key point, right? Remember the call the whole time is that we won't get broad-based alt season. Instead, what we'll get is a handful of alts do extremely well, drag the likes of Total 2, Total 3, others up, and the majority of these altcoins will massively underperform Bitcoin. Now, I have no idea if XRP is going to be able to make it to these kind of numbers. It seems like an awful lot, to be completely honest. But if it does, that would absolutely continue to validate my idea that breadth is going to remain thin and a handful of these alts are going to do extremely well. I mean, if XRP is going to be 30% of the total market cap, we might even see it flip the likes of ETH. And then when you start to add ETH in Sol and Bitcoin, okay, there's not really going to be any room for other coins to run, which of course was the idea the entire time. So super interesting. And again, this will be like the most hated rally ever. Can you imagine if XRP does another 10x from here? People are going to absolutely lose their minds because people really, really hate this coin for whatever reason. So should be pretty wild, but technically speaking, okay, if this wasn't XRP or market cap dominance, if this was just a stock or a share, and I was like, hey, look, breakout, consolidation, looking for a peak to be run here, everyone would be like, yeah, it's totally fine with me, right? It's only because it's XRP that people say, oh, it's impossible, it's dumb, it's whatever. Okay, but again, if it wasn't XRP, if it was a stock, then people would be like, yeah, it seems pretty reasonable. So that's of note, I think, and also of note that if and when XRP does make a pump, historically speaking, that has been the final move before the ultimate top comes in across the wider crypto and Bitcoin market. So if it's going to do this, again, it kind of speaks to not seeing an extended lengthened cycle, not seeing a Q1 top. It's just this time is completely normal and to be expected as per the 4-year cycle. And do you remember this red squiggle? Okay, a lot of people were like, yeah, you're just trolling and rage bait. Yeah, kind of, right, kind of. But the reality is, since then, okay, it can change, but it hasn't changed yet. So we have just been chopping around here, okay? Now, again, I want to make this very, very clear. If alt season is going to be a thing, if this thing is going to push off, now seems like a really good time to do it to me. Okay, we've had a big move up, a kind of a bull flag or pennant, whatever you want to call it. Okay, if we're going to break out here and move to the top, I think now would be the time to do it, right? So again, keep your eye on this, because if we're going to do this, happy days, okay, then alt season, let's go. But what if we don't do this? Okay, what if we continue to range or even start to move down and start to morph into a look like this? Well, for me, as you know, it doesn't really matter, okay? But I make these videos to point out that there are more than one scenario available in markets, okay? And if you're only looking up, then you are going to be potentially wrecked if the downside should occur. So just keep an eye on that, okay? If this is a bull flag, then it should be about to move up without looking back. As for Bitcoin, okay? Bitcoin, as I said earlier, looking for a daily cycle low, looking for this to move higher, looking for the camel indicator to hopefully pick another tradable low here. And then it should be time to continue to move up as per all of these slides earlier. It would be very obvious in hindsight. There are still space in the daily and the weekly cycle for us to continue to move higher. So I don't think we've really got a problem, right? I think everything is looking a-okay until such time as we start to fail cycles. Gold is looking like a fantastic consolidation here. Looking like the consolidation is pretty much complete. Looking like it's getting ready to do the final move of this fractal that we've been talking about forever. Here you go, looking for this thing to push up one final time. So I think this is going to happen. And the reason I'm so confident about this is, number one, I see a bunch of people trying to call tops and call this a quadruple, pentuple top or whatever. But number two, okay, the miners are already telling us the future. The miners are continuing to rally into our target sell zone. Okay, again, once we've got one or two more daily cycles behind us in the level 3 member section, we're going to be unloading these and locking in the gains from all the way lower down. Okay, this has been a fantastic run. Some of these are up over 100% that we've added. Okay, now for a gold mining stock, that's pretty darn good if you ask me. So again, time to take some profit, head for those 4-year cycle lows. The juniors as well, okay, there's been extremely good performance, closing in on 100%, which for an ETF in 1.5 weekly cycles, not even that, okay, just over 1 weekly cycle. Again, that's pretty darn good, getting ready to sell higher up. We're almost there. And I do not believe these kind of things will be leading like this if gold was not about to moonshot higher as expected. And the SILJ, of course, you know, we hold this in the longer term accounts as well, but we also got multiple trade positions. This is my preferred instrument because this does a lot more in terms of overall gains than gold or silver can, right? This is up 66%, 2 lightly leveraged positions stacked on top of each other here. Okay, so I mean, this is not nothing, right? And I do not believe this would be occurring if gold and silver were not about to make a run to a final 4-year cycle top. And you better believe, just like people have been moving the goalposts in Bitcoin, starting to talk about lengthened cycles, all of this kind of thing, as we do something like this yellow fractal here for gold, okay? And this blue vertical bar is the 4-year cycle low, okay? The half cycle in the 8-year cycle. As we start to push up here, you better believe every man and his dog is going to be bullish gold. They're going to be telling you they've been buying gold the entire time, even though there's no receipts, okay? They're going to be telling you gold is just getting started and there's a reval campaign and central banks are about to, you know, revalue this thing and they've been buying it the whole time and this is a super cycle and 10 or 15k gold is coming, okay, and they're only just going to clock this and become super bullish into this parabolic top, and that's of course when we're going to get a whopping 30-40+% correction into that 4-year cycle low. Okay, so this is cycles doing cycle things, markets doing market things, and it is important to take note of that sentiment, because if that sentiment occurs, then you can look around you and very easily say, okay, we are right in our assessment. No one has cared about gold. If all of a sudden every man and his dog cares, then it's time to exit the market. And it's the same with Bitcoin, right? Nobody cared about lengthened cycles, and this time was any different than any of the prior times. Now all of a sudden they are moving the goalposts, and that is a big tell that it is soon going to be time to exit this market. It's the same with MicroStrategy, right? Back here, it was TA doesn't work anymore and all of that stuff I was talking about earlier. Now at the hard right edge, we're about to print failed daily cycles, aren't we? So yes, we were hedged long in case we were wrong, but we're now getting to that point where we have to exit this market, lock in this tiny bit of profit, which we always knew was probably going to be the case. And again, it speaks to, doesn't it, the sentiment shift. We went from TA doesn't work to, oh no, there's a smear campaign on MicroStrategy. And that's exactly what we see right before major tops come in and huge bear markets ensue. Meanwhile, the stock market, the AAII bull bear sentiment is down towards 30% bullish. There are no bulls in this market. whilst the market is at all-time highs. So that's pretty wild. That means we are majorly climbing a wall of worry here, and there's probably a lot higher to go until such time as we got more bulls in the market, right? More buyers, less doubters here. So I'm your boy Camel, okay? Watch for those cycle lows, watch the sentiment, because the sentiment is king as always, and I'll be back tomorrow with another video. Until then, take care from me, all the best, cheers, bye.
Camel finance, he's the man to see. Rocking the markets with his contrarian spree. Trades like a pro, no fear, no shame. Sticking to his guns in his money game.